Hello dear students, welcome to our class, and today we are going to start the next chapter of your syllabus, that is the cell. Cell, it is a biology chapter. As you know, the whole science is basically divided into three major parts, physics, chemistry and biology. Prior to this, we have completed the chapters of chemistry. Chemistry, as you know, is the study of the various kinds of matter around us and the interaction between the various types of matter, right? And now we are going to start the biology part. So, biology is made up of two terms, bio and logy. Bio means living organisms and logy means the study, right? So you can say biology is the part of science, is the branch of science which deals with the study of living organisms, their structures, their functions, their metabolic processes, that all is studied under this part of biology, right? And we have another term, that is cytology, or in modern days, this cytology is also known as cell biology. So, cell biology or cytology is the branch of biology which deals with the study of cell, right? So, the branch of biology involving the study of cell is known as cytology, or it is also known as cell biology. So, before starting further details about the cell, first of all, you would like to know what is a cell, right? So, what is a cell? In very simple words, a cell can be defined as a structural and functional unit of life. All living organisms, whether plants or animals, whether small or big, they all are made up of cells, right? So, that's why the cell is said to be the structural unit of life. In the same way, exactly as if we talk about a multi-storied building, whether you talk about a multi-storied building, whether you talk about a small room, or even you talk about a single wall. For all these, the basic structural unit is a brick, right? So, as brick is the basic structural unit of all these builded objects, similarly, the cell is the basic structural unit of all the living organisms, right? And why is it known as functional unit? So, why is it known as functional unit? For a structural unit, we have said that all organisms are made up of cell. As I told, whether plant or animal, whether it's small or big, whether microscopic or macroscopic, all organisms are made up of cell. And if we talk about functional unit, why cell is functional unit? Because a single cell performs all the biological processes. So, all the biological processes which are essential for the survival of life, whether you talk about digestion, respiration, excretion, transportation. So, all these basic functions of the life are also performed by a single cell. Our body is capable of performing various functions because every cell of our body is performing its own work. And that's why we are capable of surviving, right? So, that's why the cells are known as the functional unit of life, right? So, with the help of few activities, we can prove that all the organisms, whether plants or animals, are made up of cells, right? And before going for that, there are some cells that are capable of independent existence, and these kind of organisms are known as unicellular organisms. So what are unicellular organisms? Unicellular organisms are that where a single cell can survive independently. Then it is known as unicellular organism. And if we, for example, here for example of unicellular organism, you can take the case of amoeba, you can take the case of paramecium, euglena, etc. And if we talk about multicellular organisms, so multicellular organisms are consisting of number of cells. So when an organism is made up of number of cells, then it is known as multicellular organism, right? For example, if we talk about other cells, human beings and different plants and animals that we see around us, they all are multicellular organism. So as I was talking that with the help of few activities, we can prove that all organisms, whether plants or animals, are made up of cells, right? So here we can do an activity to prepare a temporary amount of onion peel cell. So for doing this activity, first of all, what you require is, you require an onion bulb. When you cut the onion bulb, you can easily see the various layers of onion bulb, right? So you take a single layer of that onion bulb and pull it, bend it towards outside and then stretch it. So when you stretch it, you can see a fine membrane. With the help of a brush and first step, you can separate out that layer of membrane. At the same time, in a petri dish, you keep ready some water and already added few drops of safranin to it. Safranin is a staining agent which provides the stain to the membrane, so that we can easily visualize the various parts of the cell. And now you put that membrane in this water, right? And with the help of this a brush, you transfer this piece of membrane on a slide. Slide, as you know, is a rectangular shape, thin strip of made up of glass. So at the center of slide, you put your stained material and then put a drop of glycerin over it to ensure that it doesn't get dried up, and then very carefully you put a curved slip over it, and you should be very careful while placing the curved slip so that there is no air bubble trapped inside it, because if the air bubble is trapped, you won't be able to observe your specimen clearly, right? And now you can observe the specimen under a microscope, and when you observe the slide of your specimen under the microscope, what you observe here is, you observe these kind of cells having the shape of a honeycomb like structure. Like this kind of cells you observe under the slide, right? And in this cell, you will observe that the outer boundaries of the cell are darkly stained and at the center, near the periphery, we have a dark colored spot. So this dark colored spot of the cell is what? It is the nucleus of the cell, and rest of the part is having a very light stain or a faint stain. So it is not very dark pink in color. So depending upon the chemical composition, the various components of the cell, they take different stain, right? Some are dark, some are light, so that they can be easily identifiable. So in this way, we could prepare a temporary mount of onion peel cell, and which proves that all plants are made up of cells. At the same time, we can also prepare a temporary mount of human cheek cell, For doing this, what you have to do, you have to take a clean wooden ice cream scoop, and with the help of that ice cream scoop, you scratch the inner parts of your cheek, and you will observe the layer of cheek over it. You will be getting the cells of cheek, and then on a slide at the center you put a drop of water, and at the same time you put a drop of some staining agent, either methylene blue or eosine, or you can use iodine, and you put that scrap over here. So what you observe here is, you will see the scrap what you have taken, and then the extra stain you remove with the help of some tissue paper very carefully, and put a drop of glycerine and put a cover slip over it, and then observe it under the microscope. So what you observe here is, you observe the cells, spherical cells like this, and again you will be observing that the outer boundary of the cell is having a dark stain, and at the center you will be observing a nucleus, right? So here you can see that it has outer part is the cell membrane, and the inner part, the dot which you are observing here, is the nucleus of the cell. So this activity shows that not only plants but animals are also made up of cell. And here for performing this activity, like for example, we can take a piece of a small onion bulb, or you can take the piece of a big onion bulb, and if you observe the slides of these onion bulbs, what you will observe, that irrespective of the size of the onion bulbs, the size of the cells are same. It's not like that big onion bulb has big cells and the small onion bulb has small cells, right? So what is happening here in this case? It shows that irrespective of the size of the organism, all the cells are of similar sizes. Then why the organisms have different sizes? Because that the big organisms are having large number of cells, and the small organisms are having a small number of cells. Exactly in the same way, like we have discussed the example of a building and a brick. So whether it is a case of a small wall, whether it is a case of a small room, or it is a case of big multi-storied building, the difference is in the number of bricks. It doesn't happen there that the big buildings are using big bricks and the small buildings are using small bricks. It's not like that, right? So all the organisms, whether big or small, they have the same sizes of cells. The only difference is that their numbers may vary. That small organisms have lesser number of cells and big organisms have bigger number of cells, right? So now we have proved that all living organisms are made up of cells, right? So now the question is that how the cells were discovered. If cells are so small that we cannot observe them with the help of naked eyes, Then how we came to know about the existence of cells? The cells were first discovered by Robert Hooke in the year 1665 by using his self-designed microscope in a piece of cork, which is what? Which is the bark of tree. So Robert Hooke first time he designed his microscope, and with the help of his microscope he was trying to observe the various things around him. So what he saw, accidentally he was observing the cork of the tree, and it was not decided, he was accidentally observing, and in that piece of cork he could see these kinds of honeycomb-like structures in the piece of cork, and these honeycomb-like structures he named as cell, right? Why cell? Because cell is the Latin term which means a cabin, or you can say a small room. And that term of cell is still in use. Like if you go to any school or colleges, you have the different units. This is the examination cell, this is administration cell, this is admission cell. So cell means the different units that are performing different functions, right? Then further, there were a number of scientists who gave their contribution there. Next is Anton van Uwenhock. Anton van Leeuwenhoek, who observed the free living cell in pond water. Then another one is Robert Brown, who discovered the nucleus in the cell. Nucleus is the main governing center of the cell, right? And then another one is Purkinje, who coined the term known as cytoplasm. The jelly-like material inside the cell is known as cytoplasm, which contains all the cell organelles of the cell, right? Then there is another one, that is Schleiden and Schiwan, who gave the cell theory, according to which that all living organisms are made up of cell. And then another one is Virchow, who expanded the cell theory and according to this expanded cell theory, all cells arrive from pre-existing cells. Right? So that is the contribution of various eminent biologists who gave their valuable contribution in the study of cell, right? So that was an introduction about the cell. All living organisms are made up of cells. These cells, they develop, they grow, they wear out, they keep on dying, and the new cells are being formed, right? The further details of this chapter that we'll be discussing in our next lecture. Goodbye till then, have a nice time.